Buy a home, you'll have equity. Buy a home, it's a great investment. Renting is throwing away money. You are paying for your landlord's investment property. This is what I've heard from a lot of people, and the chances are that you have as well. I think this entire concept of buying over renting is completely flawed. And here's why. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Neerav, and on this channel, I talk about personal finance, self-improvement, and business. Let's get into it. Cost is one of the biggest factors when it comes to deciding whether you want to rent or you want to buy. Especially during this time when the cost to buy a home or an apartment in major cities around the world are skyrocketing, which actually means that if you don't have enough money to put in as a down payment, you might have to settle for something in a smaller city or something completely far away from one of the major cities, which actually defeats the purpose because a lot of opportunities are in these major cities, and that is where you should be if you want to progress in your career. Because I live in Ontario, let's take an example of the Toronto housing market. The average home price to buy in Toronto is 1.12 million, which means if you want to actually buy this apartment and you decide to put a down payment of 10%, you'll have to shell out about $112,000. On top of this, you'll have to get a mortgage for the remaining amount. And if the percentage is 5% over a 25-year-old mortgage, this is exactly how the structure ends up looking like. So at the end of the 25-year term, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up paying about $500,000 just in interest, which is something that you also need to consider when you decide to buy. Add to this a completely outrageous blind bidding process and multiple offers on a house, which means that you'll actually end up shelling maybe 2, 3, or 400,000 more than what the house is listed for. Add to this about 9 different types of taxes and fees that you'll have to pay, some of them right when you're buying, while a couple of them will be recurring. Plus adding the cost of maintenance and the cost of upkeep for your property, replacing the roof about every 10 to 15 years. If there's a condo, you need to pay condo maintenance fees every single month. Some of your appliances like your dishwasher, your stove, maybe your washer or dryer might need replacement over the next 5 years, or you might just have to replace them because they're not energy efficient and they're costing you more in your utilities bill. Renting, in contrast to this, will only cost you between $1,900 to $3,100 depending on whether you rent a studio or you rent a 2-bedroom apartment. Also, the perks that come with renting is, as a renter, you don't have to pay for any of the maintenance, upkeep, or condo fees, which is the responsibility of the landlord. Also, in case of any kind of an equipment repair or maintenance that's needed, your landlord is the one who's responsible for it. All you have to pay is for the rent and utilities. Of course, you end up saving money with this option, but it's only useful if the money that you saved in the process is actually invested into stocks or ETF, which average about 10% return every year. Buying actually limits your opportunities as opposed to renting when you are a free bird. You can pick and choose wherever you want to go. As a buyer, it also makes you less motivated to move to another place, even though you might have an amazing opportunity someplace else, because you'll have to go through the entire process of looking for a new home, selling your current home, and at the same point of time moving. Also, another thing to factor in this case is when you're moving and planning to sell your current place of residence, you have to factor in as to how much capital gains you are making, which can only be found out after you calculate how much mortgage you've paid, how much money you've put down upfront, and at the same point of time, how much interest and maintenance that you've paid on the property. However, a renter can anytime get out of their current property, move to another city, move to another place, and at the same point of time downsize or upsize their place of residence. When it comes to equity, it's not always that buying a home will give you a higher return. Housing prices fluctuate all the time, and you always have to factor in the full amount of money that you've paid. Adding to this also the 10 or the 20% amount that you've put in upfront, which could have been invested somewhere else into stocks, because this amount is locked up and it's gone, as opposed to you investing this amount into a stock portfolio from where you can withdraw it anytime you want to, irrespective of whether the market is in an upturn or in a downturn. In my opinion, unless you are ready to settle down in a particular city or an area and have absolutely no intentions of moving anywhere, irrespective of what kind of an offer that you might get, you should not buy a home and instead focus more on renting. Like and subscribe if you learned something new, and I'll see you next time.